Welcome to Spidersight Interviews. Today, we're honored to have a truly extraordinary guest, none other than the Mystagogue of Galdrux. In this episode, we'll delve into the enigmatic concept of the multiverse and uncover how it integrates into the Galdrux paradigm. Is the multiverse a mere theoretical construct, or is it an essential framework for understanding reality itself? What does Galdrux reveal about the infinite possibilities that stretch across existence? These are just a few of the questions we'll tackle. Mystagogue, it's truly an honor to have you here with us. The first question I want to ask you is the following one. What is the multiverse, according to the Galdruxian paradigm, and what is the scope of the multiversalist Galdrux praxis?
The multiverse in Galdruxian contexts refer to the sum of all imaginary realities. The multiversal praxis consists of the means by which a Galdruxian project these realities upon the consensual reality, or how one can bend the existing causal circumstances to the ones defined on an imaginary reality. These imaginary realities are considered real before any possible manifestation in physical reality, though, and are thought to exist on a different universe in the multiverse of mind. The scope of the multiversal praxis encompasses a liminarity between pataphysical and occult practices.
Are causal circumstances only shaped by one imaginary universe? Aren't universes, imaginary or consensual, always in flux? How is a significant amount of this different from hyperstition? I'm not incredibly familiar with the imaginary and pataphysics, but that does clarify some things. I was interpreting your usage of imaginary as Lacanian. Also, if all universes are assumed to exist in this larger multiverse, does that not mean there is a universe with a system so radically different from ours that applying an a priori form of interaction based on our consensual universe would yield counterintuitive results?
There is no definitive or objective truth in multiversalism. It's impossible to make positive statements regarding the nature of the multiverse, but all assumptions are regarded as equally truthful, just like the postulate of equivalence in pataphysics defines. Considering so, there would not be counterintuitive results due to interactions with a paraxenic universe, since a multiversalist would not need to base its approach in our consensual universe. It is assumed that the other universes exist between overlapping noospheric and physical layers, not being merely imaginary or dependent on the mind of one or more individuals. The protagonism of the imaginary is due to its ability to generate conceptual and non-conceptual symbolic representations of other universes that are used as magical bridges to the other universes. The hyperstition works as a primary form of manifestation of fictitious realities, but the main goal of Galdruxians, the converging of all the universes into a single continuum, can only be possible through a transformation of the objective reality. The hyperstitious causality is only a stepstone in this plan.
A pataphysics based on postulates seems relatively axiomatic, despite scope differences between postulates and axioms. It seems to me that it would effectively create an arborescent system or framework that governs virtuality and ideation. Two conflicting universes can exist as virtually possible concepts, but the affirmation of them both as actually possible concepts is contradictory. How is hyperstition not transforming objective reality via manifestation?
I think the postulate of equivalence works to create an rhizomatic system rather than an arborescent one. This postulate exists to obstruct the ascension of any hierarchical and absolute set of axioms in the system rather than limit the imaginary speculation to a predefined linearity. As the College of Pataphysics once said, quote, "For the college, Jerry is neither a prophet nor a messiah, but just the first pataphysician, a title which it is difficult to contest, for while there have been others and perhaps greater than Jerry, he had the distinction of being the first to introduce the idea of pataphysics and to assign it to its rightful place in the world. However, questions of greatness have no meaning for us by virtue of the postulate of equivalence. A page of the telephone directory has the same value for us as a page of the exploits and opinions of Dr. Faustrol." End quote. We can't have the presumption of thinking that we can fully understand the nature of other universes or the multiverse itself. The existence of contradictions can only be assumed inside systems where all the variables are known and understood. The suggestion of contradiction in alien systems are more likely to be due to our ignorance, rather than a faultiness in the foreign system. The inherently pataphysician antinomy of the primordial chaos embraces all the apparent inconsistencies, contradictions, and paradoxes in a consistent system, albeit apparently formless, abstract and unknowable to our causal-bounded sight. And being the multiverse a metaphor of the primordial chaos, it naturally have these qualities. From my understanding, hyperstitious causality can't directly modify the physical nature of reality. This assumption lead me to believe that the hyperstition would be part of a manifestation system rather than being used individually.
We can have the assumption that the nature of other imaginary universes will be homogeneous to the consensual universal. I think the existence of contradictions within any universe is probable and has nothing to do with the faultiness of a system, foreign or not. Rather, I am attempting to address the paradox of actualizing the conflicting heterogeneous universes onto a single continuum. The paradox of making the actually possible universes actually real.
I do not assume other imaginary universes are necessarily homogeneous to consensual universes or anything like this. Multiverse implies the universes are independent of each other, even though some paradigms suggest some universes are more close to others like reflections, making it look like a rhizomatic ramification vaguely similar to the modus operandi of the theory of evolution. The existence of paradoxes is irrelevant. The existence of paradoxes and inconsistencies is inherently and expected. Like I said before, the apparent impossibility of a paradox is just an assumption based in limited knowledge. The chaos is a domain of infinite and unlimited possibility. There is no causality in chaos that could limit its probabilities, otherwise it would not be chaos. The tesseract hypercube vertices and faces seem to intersect and bend in paradoxical and impossible angles based in our three-dimensional reality, but this is due to our impossibility to see four-dimensional angles rather than the inexistence of the four-dimensional angles. For example, consensual reality is the collective perception of the external and objective reality. From my understanding, is the reality layer affected by hyperstitious causality, and for that reason, the possible effect hyperstition can have on objective reality can only be achieved by the aid of other systems of manifestation or future technology, or both, available at the hyperstition manifestation moment. Galdruxians understand that hypersigil complex, dataplex, is what hyperstition causality will use to affect objective reality, be it as a mimetic encoded function in the semantic and conceptual substance of the hyperstition, or and as a circumstance available at the right time, once the hyperstition is active. Imaginary realities are imagetic permutations of our own reality conceived by imagination, or by epiphenic sensory experiences we may have with our bodies or other available sensory receiver. The multiversalism is based on the idea these realities exist no matter how absurd they can be due to the infinity of the multiverse, since it is a metaphor of chaos represented as a rhizomatic spider web.
I agree that the multiverse is rhizomatic. I only ever express concern in the philosophy regarding it. Isn't chaos a subjectively perceived phenomenon? You're referring to it as if it is a transcendental entity. Your statements regarding causality imply that chaos is metaphysically transcendent. How can something be transcendental and rhizomatic? Is a tesseract example supposed to illustrate that a seeming paradox will resolve itself, or that the impossibility of the paradox is just an assumption regarding it? In your point of view, the imaginary reality is sort of a Lacanian or Freudian psychoanalytic fantasy, except rather than lacking the object of desire, it is presented to be real no matter how absurd it is, and any and all paradoxes or inconsistencies which manifest in the actualization of a continuum are assumed to not matter, because they are transcended by chaos.
Chaos is a limitless and pan-dimensional domain and a plane of existence. It is everything and nothing, the acausal, the zeroth dimension. Everything that exists came from the chaos. All the reality and all universes in the multiverse are only limited manifestations of the chaos. If the chaos is limitless, it is correct to assume all paradoxes are inexorably fated to be resolved in its scope. The multiverse is a metaphor of chaos, but it differentiates from the chaos since it is a system that is constituted of separated continuums. Chaos is the continuum which all the universes will converge into. Galdruxians intend to engulf the consensual and objective reality in chaos to achieve this goal. While the multiverse is rhizomatic, chaos don't need to be so. It would be more rightful to say it is both rhizomatic and arborescent, since all the opposites exist simultaneously within chaos.
I guess it depends on what you mean with the resolution of a paradox. Do you mean that two paradoxical entities are coexisting? Or that there is some kind of attempted reconciliation between them? I don't know to what extent different contradicting virtual possibilities can actualize themselves without contradicting one another, but I do agree that paradox is in the nature of chaos.
I would say chaos realizes paradoxes in its continuum through a relativistic causality. Conflicting constants ignite permutative deviations in chaos that create epiphenomenal causality clusters where the paradoxes can exist simultaneously. Conflict don't end up with the erasure of the opposite, but with an assimilation. But I can't say for sure, of course. I don't think our semantics can convey the accurate signification of pan-dimensional variables' activities.
You saying conflict doesn't end up with the erasure of the opposite, but just an assimilation, makes it sound like the unity of opposites. This contradicts the idea that chaos manifests itself along a conflicting continuum. What is a phenomenon in this instance, if the clusters of causality are epiphenomenal?
I imagine chaos as a complex and infinite set of intersectional heterogeneous phenomena linked through the acausal causality of the pandimensionality. The unrealization of a phenomenon due to conflicting causalities is already realized by the fullness of nothingness. But chaos, being acausal and pantemporal, always end up realizing the impossibilities contained in the nothingness. In our reality, the number of things that don't exist is always greater than the number of things that exist. In chaos, these numbers are always equal. Nothingness is part of the chaos whole. So chaos contains the unrealization and the realization of all phenomena. In our reality, the realization and unrealization of things is dependent of a pre-established circumstance and the possible happening of a factor that may ignite the phenomena. In chaos, things are not dependent on others to exist or coexist. Phenomenons are epiphenomenons of themselves, just like Egyptian mythology claims the god Aton created himself. So I would say the conflicting causalities coexist and grow through and between the gaps of unrealization of themselves that are also part of the structure of chaos in pan-temporal loops of existence, but I can't say of the details of the possible coexistence of paradoxes. I can just assume it happens due to the explicit nature of chaos, as I explained.
I see. While there's so much more we could explore, we've covered an incredible amount of ground today, making this the perfect moment to conclude our conversation. Mystagogue, it has been an absolute honor and a truly fascinating experience to delve into the depths of the Galdrux paradigm and its connection to the multiverse with you. Your insights have illuminated new perspectives on the infinite complexities of reality, leaving us all with much to reflect upon. To our audience, thank you for spending your time with us. Until next time, stay curious and keep seeking the unseen.